I had one of my students from the college come to me, and she's been suffering from depression. And as is so often the case with depression, I got a very clear sense that it was a result of not living her life the way something inside her really wanted to live. And that's so often the case when we haven't gotten to a place where we've blossomed into our own consciousness, either by way of youth or because of your parents are paying your bills for you, which was the case in her situation. There are so many different reasons. We all are on a consciousness journey, and so we all are kind of growing in at like a little flower coming to blossom to that place where we're conscious. And it's in degrees. It's a kind of scale. It's not a thing that's on one side of the wall or another side of the wall where you sort of turn it on and it's all there or all off. It comes in degrees, and sometimes it's compromised by challenges we face. And that's why it's so important to listen to your heart, as simple as it sounds. Those little 3 words, follow your heart, were the most special words and best advice that anyone ever gave me when I was younger and in a crossroads. And I love the way the wisdom there is described. I love the way the Quakers describe it as the still small voice within. It's said that divine instructions are whispered into your heart. But in order to hear those instructions, we have to get still. We have to get quiet. And I love what Yogi Bhajan says as well. And I'm going to share the quote with you. He says, "Don't look for anything. All you have to do is find in you your own sacredness," which is just another way of saying, get still. Get into your heart. Get into your own truth. Get into what's true and valid and real for you. Listen. But in order to listen to our heart, we have to have not only the courage to follow the instructions that are whispered there, but we have to be honest enough to listen and to confront what is there. And sometimes that means asking certain questions, like, do you have enough faith? Or are you ready to take a chance? Or what boundaries do you need? And to be honest enough and courageous enough to ask those questions, but also answer them, it means being ready to let go of all the stories we tell ourselves that get in the way of our ability to answer those questions in a way that allows us to be authentic. And so in that way, like one of my own spiritual teachers says, and I love this, she says, in that way, the whole spiritual journey is a kind of purging. Don't you love that? It's a kind of purging, because it's letting go of all of the things, all the stories we tell ourselves, all the stuff we tell ourselves, only we use different words, that mask our ability to hear the message and that get in the way of our ability to answer those questions truthfully and in a way that enable us to be truly who we are, authentic. And if we're not truly who we are, then like my student, the result is depression, frustration, first frustration, and then it downgrades into depression when we fall into a kind of powerlessness. We feel powerless over our own lives because we're not listening to that still small voice within, as the Quakers put it so poetically, that still small voice within. We're not owning who we are, in other words, and when we own who we are, we pull ourselves in. Because like I was saying a few weeks ago in the other room, when we're giving ourselves away in pieces, plugging in to what others say, to what others want from us, to others' idea of what we should be doing with our lives, of our need for acceptance, our need for approval, what they're saying over there, whether they'll like what we're doing over there, when we're plugging into all of these other places because our base or lower needs have hijacked that message of the heart. Those emotional needs have taken over our consciousness. Then we find ourselves anything but whole. We're scattered around in a million different places, concerned with OPO, other people's opinions of what we're supposed to be doing. But when we pull ourselves in and we become whole again, and that's what yoga means, to become whole again, we quote unquote own who we are, which is a kind of street talk way of putting it. And when we own who we are, depression can't live there anymore. It's incompatible with a whole and complete and integral environment. That's what integral means, in one piece. And in a related word, you're living with integrity, having pulled yourself all together into one piece, living in a way that's consistent with your deeper needs and the message, those divine instructions that are whispered into the portal of your soul, your heart. And so the heart space, the heart chakra, sits right in between the two triangles. Isn't that interesting? It's right in the middle. The bottom 3 triangles, the top 3 triangles. And so as a chakra center, as an energy vortex, it's right in the center. And thus it thrives on balance. So coming into balance means being able to ask those questions. What do I need to feel like my life is in balance, that I'm not giving myself away? And in order to answer that question, again, we've got to be willing to get still. So what it means is we set aside this time, like what we're all doing right now, to get quiet, to give that time to our own practice, to get still. And also at home, to set aside some sacred moments in the morning or at night where you get quiet and you listen. And praying doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as, I'm listening. I'm listening. That's enough. Some people shy away from it because they don't know what to say. But you don't have to say much. The simplest is best. I'm listening. And that's part of marriage to the self as well, keeping your word to yourself to create that sacred time and space where you listen. So today's set will nurture our energy centers, bring them into balance, and bring us to a place where we find ourselves harmonically balanced, energetically speaking, so that we can come into that stillness of our heart, setting up those physical conditions for balance, physical integrity, which provides physiological integrity, psychological integrity, spiritual integrity. It's all a complete system. So we're setting up the conditions for that wholeness to bring us into balance. So let's begin with a Sufi grind, opening up the spine.